Hey everyone, my name is Anna. I'm a wife of an addict in recovery, and I'm also recovering myself from codependency.
Hi guys, I'm Mitchell, gratefully recovering addict and alcoholic, and I am grateful to be here.
Tonight, guys, I do think we may have answered this question in the past, but this is a question I think a lot of family members would ask. And so if we have any new members here on the We Are Recovery, I think this is just a really good jumping off point to give the perspective of someone that was in addiction, but also someone in recovery. So we're just going to get right to it. So tonight, again, is going to be answering all of your questions that have been sent in. That are, if you can ask an addict in recovery anything, what would you like to ask? And again, anyone that comes on, you're more than welcome to write a comment below, and we can answer them that way too. So, jumping off point, Mitchell, is it possible for the addict to fully understand the destruction they caused to so many people, including themselves?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's what recovery is. I think recovery is slowly understanding the destruction that we created. And I think that's the hardest thing about recovery. Because how do we recover and look at that? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think that's why recovery is hard. I think that's why not everybody recovers. I think that's why a lot of people don't challenge themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think to move forward, you have to look back. Right? I think to move forward, you have to look back at what went right, what went wrong, what was planned, what wasn't, and those kind of things, right? And I think that's just with all of life, with no matter what challenge you're coming up on. Now, I think there's also levels to understanding the destruction. In addiction, I definitely knew some of the very terrible things that I did, right? But I didn't grasp the effect it had on others, right? It was just the moment of accountability the next day or in the moment, right? The moment of accountability, and then instant numbing again, right? So you're not really there. You understand what happened, but not the severity of what it made the other person feel, or how it impacted their life, or maybe their future decisions for the rest of their life. I think you start to get that. So there's in the addiction knowledge, or in the addiction what is it called when you understanding? It's in the addiction understanding of the problem that happened. And then there's the early recovery, understanding what happened, which is raw, but also not medicated. So you get a lot of emotions probably, but also a lot of pride and ego, and a lot of maybe downplaying what happened and those kind of things, because our pride and our soul is being attacked, or at least we feel it is, right? When we're just trying to empathize with somebody. You know what I mean? And then I think there's the longer term understanding, which may bring more closure, mm-hmm. but it's farther away. So I think the farther away it gets, I think the reason closure happens is because we are putting time between it. But I also think though, with the more time that has gone, you still are, you're even further away from fully understanding what happened in that moment.
May I?
Right? So I don't think, so that's the reason why I say no. I don't think they can ever fully understand, nor I don't think it's possible that they can ever fully understand.
May I ask a follow-up question to that? What do you think are some feelings and emotions that addicts in early recovery may feel that leaves them less likely to want to hear family sides? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Like, what feelings and emotions come up when a family member does bring, hey, this is what happened in the addiction? Because we tend to feel addicts in early recovery are very defensive. So what feelings and emotions do you think you were feeling early on, Mitchell, that created that defensiveness?
Well, I think for one, you feel insane, right? You feel like you remember things. things that happened, right? Because you're still in that like dreamlike state of addiction.
Yeah.
So you're like, no, I remember what happened.
Okay.
Right? And I think that's why you battle it. That's why I battle it. I remember what happened. I remember missing our anniversary. I remember having that fight. I remember having those things. I don't think it's till longer term recovery where you're like, wait, I was the one high or drunk. So even though I think I remember what happened, that's not really what happened.
Okay.
Right? That's what happened in my drunk mind. That's what happened and I perceived in my high mind. So we have to realize that that's not real. That's hard. That's hard, right? So there's the insanity of being told something that we don't think is true. Then it's battling our own pride and ego to accept that is true.
Yep.
And then it's saying, that's a really crappy thing to do. I did that.
Okay.
So then there's the shame and guilt. I'm ashamed. And then there's a lot of stuff with me of you think you're a certain person as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, and then you find out later that there's this 10, 20, 30 year period where you just devastated people and disappointed people. And it wasn't anything that you thought was going to be you. And it isn't you.
Yeah.
But you lived not you for so long. So it's like, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? Do I deserve forgiveness? I definitely don't deserve to be with the person I said I loved. And nor, and then I think this is also things that come up, nor do I want to be. Because it's too hard. How much easier would it be to start fresh with someone new?
I guess you get to stay in denial. And
Way
not do
easier.
it. Yeah.
Way easier, right? What are we going to lean towards, right? Easy. So I think it's like when things get hard and we're feeling those things and our pride and ego comes out and then we accept these things, then it's like, I'm a piece of crap. I feel like crap. Well, I shouldn't be forgiven. All this stuff, which is exactly why a spiritual awakening should happen, right? A spiritual connection should happen. Because that helps with self-worth and stuff. But also then we have to battle, I love this person, I love these people, I love my parents, I love my siblings and aunts and uncles and friends, and I want to work through this stuff. How do I find the courage to do that? And that's support. That's a support network, and that's therapy, and that's anxiety and depression medication, talking to your doctors, all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of decisions to make in a very uncertain time in your life, right?
Another follow-up to that, actually, I have one more follow-up because I'm just kind of going through my brain scenario. If I was listening to somebody else, I know I would always be, but this, but that. So I'm trying to do a follow-up question. Hey, Steffi! There may be a follow-up question from other family members going, okay, Mitchell, I hear you. So what you're telling me is an addict in early recovery will feel shame and guilt. They'll also question it because they're like, no, I know the truth. They're staying in that denial. Now family members would probably ask the question, okay, we get that, Mitchell. So how do we approach you? What is probably the best way that we can come to you with our past pains? Are there things that help you become a little bit less defensive and hear a little bit more? What do you think are some things that maybe I did in early recovery or we did together?
Yeah, I think number one, shared goals.
Okay.
Right? Shared goals. This is what I want this conversation, this is where I see this conversation helping our relationship. Okay. You know what I mean? I need to talk about this, and this is why it's going to help us. Right? This is why it's going to help. So I think a lot of soul searching yourself. What do you need? What's going to, what do you, I think families and friends and everybody, working with their addict, I think you need to be intentional. I think you need to be, I don't know what to say. I think you need to be very aware of what you want from questions. Because it helped a lot when Anna was aware that she was trying to work through this pain and that it wasn't gonna maybe be the last time we talked about this thing. Yeah. But she needed to say it, right? And it was like, maybe we don't need to figure this out, but I want you to hear the pain, and I don't know where to go from there, but I do know that it's gonna take some weight off my shoulders, right? And then it opens the conversation up. Also, I know a lot of the stuff that me and Anna did was allowing each other to say, we're ready to talk, we're going to be open, but we both have the right to say, this is a lot right now, can we take a break?
Yes.
Right? Because if I wasn't allowed to take a break every once in a while, I guarantee I would have medicated one of those hard discussions. Yeah. I guarantee it. We've talked about this on there before, but probably, a couple of those relapses in there were because we didn't take a break, but because I didn't know how to say I'm hurt by something that she's telling me I did, and that's not right of me to do, but I just bottled it up, right? And then would relapse, because then I start feeling the shame and guilt. It wasn't anything to do with you.
Yeah.
It was about me knowing my boundary of, this is heavy.
Yeah.
This is heavy. I need to take a break. I think you have to take a break. I think you have to be intentional with what your words are and what you want from it. Yeah. And then you also have to tell the person that this isn't going to solve everything, but I'll tell you what, this is going to get a lot closer to me opening up to you and the possibility of us being the best we can be.
Yes. And would you mind if I share some of the things that I think helped for both of us? For me, guys, what I think really helped Mitchell become less defensive was to first understand that chances are Mitchell would get defensive. Okay? That just kind of set me up and realized that this is probably going to be what's going to happen. And so I need to use my own coping skills, meaning as if Mitchell takes it up here, sure, I have the choice to go straight up there with him. But if you do that, you're both going to be in that survival brain. You're going to keep trying to one-up one another, because generally what happens between an addict and a codependent, which, yes, majority of family members are codependents, okay? What's actually happening is a power struggle. We're both trying to regain power. So what we need to understand is my intention is not to regain power over Mitchell. My intention is to hear Mitchell. My intention is to understand. And if I'm going into an environment knowing that chances are Mitchell is going to activate that survival brain and become more defensive, what are things that I can do to help me remain calm? Well, already know, hey, I got to remain calm. If Mitchell comes up here, my tone of voice stays right where I'm talking right now, okay? What I also need to be clear on is, what are my boundaries before going into this? If Mitchell raises his voice, what will it look like? Will it look like that I tell Mitchell and say, hey, Mitchell, I really am starting to feel a little unsafe right now. I know that's not your intention. It's just the raised voice is making me feel this way. Do you think we could calm the voice? That gives Mitchell a cue to go, oh, I didn't know I was doing that, and calm down. If Mitchell is to continue escalating, my boundary is, Mitchell, if you continue yelling, I think we need to do a pause. And that's actually called a repair attempt from the Gottmans, okay? So right there, I'm going, let's pause, because I'm seeing that it's elevated, and chances are, because I'm feeling unsafe, I'm actually going to probably start getting elevated because I'm going to defend myself. If both people are in defensive mode, you're not hearing one another. So what we need to do, and the best thing to do, is take a break. So that's a big thing. Just know that chances are you have someone in early recovery, their chances are they're going to be more in survival response, just like someone in early recovery for their codependency. We're going to go back to our unhealthy habits a lot of the times. So remain calm, okay? Keep your level voice in a tone. Remember your repair attempts. Remember your boundaries. Another big one. Take accountability for your own feelings. Use I feel statements rather than you're doing this. You're doing... That's already going... Think about it. If someone comes at you and goes, you, it's an attack, okay? So we're going to get resentful, we're going to get defensive. There's so much power in learning, I feel hurt right now because of... And one of the things, I don't know if Mitchell's been aware of this, one of the things I've been utilizing more lately that's not only, I think, helped Mitchell and I communicate, but it's also helped me, is anytime I start to feel Mitchell's getting a little defensive, my tone is calm and I say, hey, Mitchell, I know this isn't your intention. I'm just letting you know the story that I'm telling myself. Because I'm taking accountability that the way that Mitchell's responding, I'm telling myself a story in that. Okay? That's actually helped me calm because it's helping me realize, and we will talk about this on a live, about the stories I've realized I started taking at a very young age that were not my own and was somebody else's. Okay. So we will talk about that. And another one is, so you're taking the accountability, you're using I feel statements. And then again, I think another thing is always remember this, guys, don't go in with a load of questions. Okay, a lot of people tend to get overwhelmed if you come in and go, hey, what did you do today? What's your favorite thing? What's this? What that? It's you get defensive, okay? Because then all of a sudden, what I tend to find with addicts in recovery, they start to tell themselves a story of, I'm stupid. Here's all the shame. And that goes the same with codependency. So what you want to do is one question at a time.
One question.
Give them time to answer. And probably the best thing to do is called reflective listening. Just reflect back what you heard. Don't even add another thing in.
You don't have to do it too much.
Yes, okay? So that's another. So I just wanted to say that, guys, and to just put it out there. We talked about a lot of these skills on the Defining You podcast that I do with Kathy now. We actually just talked about last week about healthy communication. So if you're feeling like, I really want to learn more of these types of skills, Kathy and I did just do a podcast about it. You can watch it on video form or on audio, and it's all about healthy communication and things that we've learned. So I wanted to express that because I think with family members, I wanted to kind of share what I feel like I noticed. But I definitely think taking my part accountability and learning how to separate the addict from the true individual when you're going in and talking about the past.
Like you. But,
yes.
You know, all of this, and the thing is like, if you don't, you're not going to do it perfect. You're not going to be able to use all these techniques in one conversation. The best thing you can do is just have the conversation. Have the conversation and be mindful about how it goes.
Yeah.
What went bad? What went good? Right? And I'll tell you another really great thing that you can do, and it takes challenging your pride and ego. Lighten up. Right? Lighten up. Conversations can get heated, they can get heavy. It doesn't mean that it has to wreck our day, week, month. We can have a hard conversation, and the next day we can make a joke of it and say, man, that conversation got a little out of hand.
That's actually a repair attempt.
You know what I mean? It got a little out of hand. It's like, and then you can ask and say, where do you think it went off the rails? And I can say, and I'll tell you where I think it went off the rails. Make the healthiest thing you do talking about the unhealthy conversation you just had. Right? Like, learning this. Me and Anna learned this stuff over having, 2 years of therapy work and me in and out of treatment.
We're about to hit 6 years, guys, so just to let you know.
This was like hard, but this was like learning like almost 2 years fully in treatment and like rehabs and aftercares and all this stuff, like, and therapy, you know what I mean? Of always hearing all these things to even get half of those things we said. You know what I mean? And now when we have a thing, we might still only use 1 or 2 of those things.
Yes. But
they're all in our toolbox, right? And we do talk about things in a day or 2 or a week or whatever, depending on the pride and ego, how we can shut it down. So just have the conversation, look, read some books about communication, man. Like,
Fight Right by the Gottmans is an amazing book, guys.
Fight Right. Anything you can do because there are ways to do this better.
Yeah. I want to, I think it was Jennifer. Jennifer, I want to answer your question. You said, Anna, do you think you were codependent before you met the addict? Or was did it trigger your codependency? I actually think that's a 2-parter. I think, honestly, what happened is exactly what you stated. Hi, Patty! Exactly what you stated. It's actually 2. Meaning do I believe I was codependent before addiction came into my life? Absolutely. Okay? I recognize before addiction came into my life, I was a people pleaser. I was fearful of making mistakes. I lacked boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries were. I didn't know you had to tell people how you wanted to be treated. I was definitely a perfectionist that stopped me from ever moving forward. I was definitely more scared of taking risks. I avoided confrontation like the plague. I had a lot of low self-worth, self-esteem issues that created me into being the people pleaser. There was so much that was there. And now the other part, you said, did it trigger it? Yes. Because when I went into Mitchell's addiction, it triggered so much more of wanting to be the caretaker, of the caretaker actually giving me a role and duty to fulfill. I got worth from being that. Oh man, if I was the person that could make Mitchell get into recovery, how special would I be, right? So for me,
I think they fit together.
yes. Oh, addicts.
Right? I don't think the codependency can ever cause an addict, and I don't think an addiction can ever cause a codependency. I think they fit together.
We do, and so that's the thing is a lot of the times, you know, to be honest, with what I've started to go even more into when I'm doing my coaching, when I'm coaching family members or addicts in recovery, I'm actually going more into who I am, and I'm a very spiritual person. Believe in chakras, energy, and all that. And we've recently been going into my coaching sessions more talking about the chakras. And I will tell you, the one chakra that I find that a lot of codependents and addicts struggle with is the sacral. The sacral is about 2 inches underneath your belly button, okay? And the sacral has to do with your passion, your creativity, your inner child. And a lot of the times why or how you can find out that your sacral is unbalanced is you start to feel a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. Okay. And I notice a lot of codependents and a lot of addicts carry so much shame and guilt. And the reason why I believe this is, like I said, I will do a live and talk more about this, is because when we were younger, I really believe when we were younger, we knew who we were. Okay. And we lived in our power authentically. Then all of a sudden, there were people that came into our lives and started saying things like, oh, you can't do that. Or if you do that, people won't like you. Or that's not real. And what we don't realize is this. In that interaction, we started taking somebody else's belief system and somebody else's story, because I believe in essence we become more human with our feelings and emotions, and we don't want to feel uncomfortability, so we crave acceptance. So what we do is, to get acceptance, we don't recognize it, we exchange a little piece of ourselves and we take somebody else's story. And I think what we need to do moving forward is actually take moments and go back to when we started creating belief systems, why we started becoming people pleasers, why we started having low self-worth, and start recognizing that we were actually taking somebody else's story, and we don't need to. We can give it back. And I think that helps us work through shame and work through guilt, and then we stand more in our own power and our own light. And so for me, I think codependency for me stems from the sacral. A lot of childhood trauma, and I think too many times we start to think trauma is this massive thing, and trauma, again, is subjective to the person going through it. So I can tell you, I created trauma when my peers started laughing at me. I created trauma when my peers called me a man. Continuously calling me a tomboy, all these different things. I started creating this, and I craved attention. I craved worth from other people. So this is stuff that I needed to go back. So that's why when I work with people, as much as we want to focus on the addict in our lives when it's family members, we start to really focus on our identity, why we became codependent, what does our worth look like, do we even have an identity, what are some of our passions? So we bring the attention back on the self, because in codependency, we tend to lose ourselves in someone else's addiction. And we need to remember this. They lose themselves in their addiction. We lose ourselves in our addiction, which is generally the drug of wanting to be worth something, good enough, lovable, special, accepted, whatever it may be. And so one of us needs to bring the focus back to ourselves and find our identity and find our authentic self. So thank you very much for asking that question, because I do think a lot of people go, hey, was I actually codependent before this? It's just my belief. This isn't fact. It's just a belief. Yes, I believe we're codependent beforehand. And I actually hold the belief that addicts were actually codependent before they went to a physical substance. And that is why Mitchell and I, when we coach, no matter what side, family member or addict, we don't coach any different. We again talk about finding our identity, our worth, talk about codependency and things like that. Go ahead, Mitchell.
There was a question a little bit low.
Let me
Can you see it?
I can't see it on there, so we'll go into this. Hold on one second, guys. There's Patty. Hold on. Was it this one? I just want to say.
Nope.
Okay.
One more up.
One more up.
It was,
This, I don't want to tell my husband.
yeah, okay. So I just wanted to answer this one from Steph.
Yep.
It says, I don't want to tell my husband I am disappointed when he relapses because I know it's not productive. I saw that pop up on the screen and I just wanted to address it. I think it is productive. I don't think it has to be said in a way that's hurtful or accusing them of, not putting work in and not doing things, but I think it can come from a place of love. And I think that's all about communication. We can say that, because there's shame and guilt in it, yes, when someone relapses, but also we have to speak our feelings too and say, like, I'm very proud of you for how hard you've been working, or I see the work you've done, right? Is there another way I can support you? Because I see that you want it. I have to let you know that I am disappointed when you relapse because I see you, right? And I do these things. I need the people I love to tell me when they are disappointed. Is it easy to hear? No. Does it make me grow? Yes. Does it actually make me feel loved? Yes, it does. So I might feel some shame and guilt, but I also feel a lot of love because it's rare that someone can tell you real things. And that's usually reserved for people who really do love you. So I'd say challenge that.
Yeah, because I'll actually say this is, remember, Laura told all of us as family members, Laura is a substance abuse counselor. When Mitchell went into rehab, I remember her telling all of us, all the family members that had someone in there, she said, I want you to write an impact letter. And we were like, what's that? She says, I want you to write how the addiction impacted you in your love life, in your family, in your finances, in your trust, in your intimacy, and so much more. And we were like, okay, well, how much do we tell, Laura? Like, we don't want them to get hurt. And she said, why? And I said, well, we don't want them to hurt and feel shame and guilt. Laura's like, that's the very thing that they need to learn how to work through. They need to learn how to work through shame and guilt. Because there's a lot of times in life that we're going to have shame and guilt about things. Well, and if we don't have the tools to learn how to work through them, then life's always going to sweep us by. So she said, I need you to write all your truths because you also need to express your truths and stop being codependent and not expressing your feelings and emotions, which again goes back to the sacral chakra. It's about expressing your feelings. And when it's not in tune, when it's closed or blocked, you're not expressing your feelings.
Yeah, and I think you go to what the track record is whenever things are sugar-coated or things aren't brought up, right? Like, we think that we can do it ourselves again, right? Like, I drink or use drugs and I say I'm never going to do it again, and then time passes and it's not as bad. So unless it's like, hey, that was unacceptable, what happened last night, unless those things are said, it all just gets swept under the rug eventually. You know what I mean? And that's really detrimental to someone with an addictive personality because that is addiction.
Yes.
Downplaying everything we do.
Yes.
We're not hurting people. I'm living my own life. I'm not affecting others.
Yeah.
Why? Because no one's telling me that, right? No one's holding boundaries.
Yeah.
That is love. I don't even think it's tough love, okay? That's not tough love.
It's love.
That's love.
Peter, I want to say, you asked, is it also important to acknowledge the person trying to function better and relationships improving, even if they are still using? That's balance there. I do think that when someone is improving in certain behaviors, yes. 100%. What I'll also tell you, though, is, I guess, see what your intention is. Is your intention just to bring about the acknowledgement of it, or is your intention to try to change something? The reason I say that is because Mitchell will tell you that towards the end, before I left, Mitchell really did believe everything was okay if I just took a breath near him. Okay? So if I looked at Mitchell and said, you're doing really good with this, Mitchell, his addict brain would go, cool, I'm doing awesome. I'm using and I'm still doing good. So it really needs to be balanced, and you need to constantly still have your boundaries.
Yeah, I think it would have to be like intentional conversation.
Yes.
Like, these are the things that are going really well, and I'm proud of you for this.
Yeah.
And right? There's still a lot of stuff that goes on that hurts me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I want to express, I forgot who said this, but thank you for saying this, because this was something that really helped Mitchell and I as well. So I'm glad to see that it really helped you. And I will already say congratulations to you and your husband. You expressed, I just want to say that you continuously saying to separate the addict from the person was a number one thing that always played in my head, because I know the actions that the addict did was not my husband. And I believe that saved us, because I was there for my husband, but detached from the addict. And he is now almost 8 months sober. And we are now living back together for 4 months. Congratulations to both of you.
Great.
Because this is absolutely something that, this is both sides, guys, okay? If you call addiction a family disease, then you've got to cure the family and give the family the vitamins, the resources, the supplements. Okay, Jamie, thank you, Jamie, to help all of us together, okay? So that shows me right there is you did the hard work with yourself. You worked through your resentment, you worked through your trauma, your pain, and what you were able to do was separate him from the addict. And that absolutely helped Mitchell and I too, because doing that, it helped me come from more of a place of empathy, compassion, understanding for Mitchell. And I feel like for Mitchell, it did help him work through shame and guilt. We still talked about the hard things, but it made it easier for him to digest in little increments so that he could work through that shame and guilt. And for anyone that's like, what does that mean? Again, what we do is all those behaviors that are very unhealthy that we see from addiction, that's the addict. The true individual is that person we're fighting for, that kind, caring individual that we know is in there. And when we learn to separate those two, in early recovery, it can help us understand and go, okay, this is no longer the addict. So I need to lean in. I need to express myself, because if not, I'm letting the addict win. And then when an act of addiction, it helps you kind of understand that if you're not holding boundaries, if you're not speaking your truth, and the addict's in front of you, then all you're doing is helping the addict. But if you speak up your truths and you hold boundaries because the addict's in front of you, you're standing up into the disease, the chronic illness of addiction, and saying no. And that's actually helping the true individual fight. That's why Mitchell said, I need my family to be honest with me. I need my family to share their feelings and say, hey, this behavior hurt me. Mitchell right here is telling you, I needed that. That helps him retrain his brain, and it also helps us challenge our own codependency and speak in our truths. Then there was another one that said, Anna, how did you look at Mitchell different? Like, I look at my alcoholic husband more often than not as an addict and not as my love. I fear that I will always look at him like an addict and not the man I fell in love with. What I'm going to be honest with you is just what we basically expressed of learning how to separate the addict from the true individual, is that if Mitchell's in recovery right now, there were times where I didn't want to express my triggers or traumas, but I needed to realize that was Mitchell in front of me. And if I'm already saying the addict's going to come out and behave this certain way, then I'm already giving the addict strength, and I'm not allowing Mitchell to show and prove to me that, hey, I'm here. So I need to lean into that uncomfortability and have those healthy conversations. I will also tell you that, it was hard. It was difficult. There were times that I thought and I felt like, will I ever love Mitchell the way that I did when I first met Mitchell before addiction came in? And I held a lot of shame and guilt around that. Okay? Because one of the things that Mitchell has always said to me is my love for you had never wavered. Okay? And he even said that, like, even when the addict was there, I always held love for you in here, and I'm sorry because my actions didn't show that. But that's what was tricky for me. My heart said I loved you. And my brain was not seeing the pain and trauma that I was causing. And so to all of a sudden start going, well, I feel like I lost that. That was very hard. And Mitchell and I had to continue having deeper conversations. And what I will tell you is more lately I've realized is because I need to continue doing inner work inside myself. I need to give myself the time and acknowledgement of what I went through in the trauma. Okay? I realized that I stepped right out of survival mode, never really felt what it was like in living mode of being in the addiction. And I'm 6 years in and I'm just now going, wow, I realize I didn't do that. And I need to really give myself time and see how I really felt in the addiction, what still needs to be spoken about now with Mitchell at this time. So I'll let you know it's a process, but you need to keep expressing yourself. You need to share your triggers. You need to share what's going on, like we talked about earlier on. Use those I feel statements, and you need to work on you. You have your own healing to do. And if we have a lot of trauma, see it as wearing like blackout goggles. It's hard for us to see what's in front of us, even if someone is healing or someone has changed. That's what our trauma does. So we really need to do our own inner work and work on that trauma and that pain. And I believe we become more open.
Yeah, and I think that a couple things you said. You battled with, am I ever gonna love Mitchell the way I did in the beginning?
Yes.
And if you're asking yourself that question about your loved one, the answer to that's no. Okay, I know that's brutal and that's honest. You're not. It's different. It's gonna be different, right? You can't go in the past. You can't. It's never gonna be like the first time you talk to each other. It's never gonna be like the first kiss, first date. It's never. So if that's an unrealistic expectation. Can it be just as good, but different? Yes. Yep. Okay, so that's something you have to remember. Another thing is if you're looking at an addict and you're looking for an addict, you're going to see an addict. Yep. Okay, so if someone's working on themselves and towards healthy, look for recovery. Yep. Because if you're looking for a relapse, you're going to find it. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're only looking for someone to mess up, you're going to find it eventually, right? And it might just be because you're not working on yourself. You're not looking for the positives. You're not doing things. I'm not saying like don't keep people accountable, but that's what I've always heard. Like, don't look for the relapse, man. Look for recovery. Yeah. If you can see recovery, it's there. You can see clusters that are going to show a relapse, but you don't fully know until you catch it in a relapse, right? So why are you wasting that time? You have to play detective, and then you're going into a behavior that's codependent that you don't want to be in either, right? So it's like, if you think for that specific question, you keep looking and seeing, try separating for sure. Whatever you need to do to see the person you loved and try to visualize that. And then your body and nature and everything else will tell you if it's going to get to better or not.
Yeah. Tara said, I'm sure someone has asked this, but I never heard you answer. Mitchell, is there a rock bottom for people? My daughter has lost pretty much everything she has wanted and has given up 2 children and living a scary life. So do you believe there is a rock bottom for everyone?
No, I don't. I don't think so. There is the hard truth. There is the hard truth, rock bottom for everybody, and that's just death. But I think that the worse I got, the farther my bottom could go. Yeah. Right? I still had a lot of stuff. But I didn't want to be here anymore, right? Like, I wanted to kill myself. The stuff that was still around wasn't sustaining my will to live. But like, say I got through that and then now I'm living on the street, whatever the case may be. I'm prison, or I don't know. Things can get worse, and then the rock bottom that you first had looks pretty damn good, right? So I think that's just a relative thing. I think I think you have to be more uncomfortable. I think you have to be the most uncomfortable to want to change. And that's what it is. I think there has to be a ratio of comfort to change, right?
I think you're on point, Mitchell, because it really is I think rock bottom is the want to change. That final, actually, I'm going to go even further. It's not the want to change. It's the doing. It's the desire. It's the doing for change, okay? Because there's a lot of times that I've met addicts in recovery, and I completely believe
when you're willing to make the change. You're actually willing to put it in.
They want the change, but you have to put the intention into it to actually create that change. And so that's where I think where people say, like, what is rock bottom? Rock bottom is when it's become enough and someone is actually willing to create the change and do the change. And I always tell family members ways that we can be prepared. Already, if they have an insurance, call the back of that number.
You call the back of the card.
Yeah, call the back of the card, the number on there, and see what rehabs, inpatients and outpatients around your area are fully covered, so that when that moment happens and you have someone going, this has been too much, I need to do something, you already go, hey, I know this is accepted right here. Because what happens with someone in addiction a lot of times, they have that willingness that they want. It's just hard to do the drive. And so if we help them, support them in that recovery of, here it is, they're more apt to going. Okay, they're way more apt to going, and that spark can go out very quickly. So that's why I tell people, just have it online.
Yes. If it's covered, get them in there.
Yes.
If they just use and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, drive them there right then.
Yes. Jessica, my husband relapsed on marijuana and Percocet. He recovered from alcoholism, but to me, he just went from one addiction to the next. I made him move out, but he says I turned my back on him. Is this me showing a boundary? I'm going to tell you right... Go ahead, Mitchell.
I was going to say, hold on. I was going to say, first of all, he's not recovered from being an alcoholic. You don't recover from being an alcoholic. You continually work on yourself, right? And marijuana and Percocet is the same addictive behavior. Yeah. So that's just the same. You can say traded one thing for another, but it's just the same. It's been the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's been a continuation of the same thing. Addiction.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I always hate to talk in absolutes, so I like to say 9 times out of 10, but I feel like this is 10 times out of 10.
9.9 out of 10.
Yeah, is that when you finally hold a boundary with someone in active addiction, they're not just going to go, thank you for holding this boundary.
You saved my life.
You saved my life. I'm going to go do recovery now. No, about 10 times out of 10, it's you abandoned me. You left me. I can't do this without you. I'll only be able to do this if you're by my side.
You're doing a good job if that's what the response was.
Yeah, so I just want you to know, Jessica, that's very typical of the addict response. And that is when we need to really hold our boundary. Okay, we have to hold our boundary. The addict, multiple times told me that I was a coward for leaving, whether it was to Massachusetts or to his sister's home. I was a coward for leaving, and I was the reason why we had problems because I wasn't being an adult and trying to solve the conflict.
Yeah, how dare you talk to my family? How dare you do this?
Yes, okay. And all of you that know Mitchell, Mitchell's not like that. So this already shows, again, it's the addict. It's the addiction. And I like that Mitchell said, I know there are people out there that believe that, no, you can completely recover from alcoholism. The only reason why I don't agree with that is because they really still do classify addiction as a disorder of the brain, as a chronic illness. And I think there are ways of how we can stop flares, right, by working a recovery.
Recovery is medicine.
Yes, but if we stop recovery, I think that's why, unfortunately, why people are more prone to relapse is because you stop doing the things that help you stay in remission, okay? And so that's what I really feel is like, I don't feel like anyone has ever recovered. And again, the reason why is because as long as our heart is beating, we're always going to continue living and having new experiences that are going to trigger us, have certain feelings, different emotions, and we need to continue learning how to process them and work through them. So I really do feel, I just wanted you to know, you're doing the right thing, you're protecting yourself, your sanity, and again, separating the addict from the true individual. You're helping the true individual because you're saying no to the addict. You're letting them know of, hey, that's great that you stopped drinking. However, you're still in addiction because you're using this substance to cope. I need to protect myself and my sanity. And so until you're ready, I'm over here. Okay? Or it can also be at times it's like, I mean, you could be ready a couple weeks from now, but I don't want to come back. Like, that's just the truth about it.
And all of this stuff is also stuff that in a relationship you talk about.
Yeah.
You talk about. Like I have all the right in the world to tell Anna, like, hey, I've been thinking about doing this, and I want to do this, and we have this discussion. And she say, that's okay. Or she says, no, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But it's about the discussion. In a relationship, you have to have that. So if it's not something that's okay with you and it was never talked about, that's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's legal, illegal, prescribed, not prescribed. It's about the communication.
And Carly and Jessica just said, I mean, he has said that exact same things to me. And it's me and the kids that are the problem. Thanks, guys. And Carly also said, I have heard the same exact things from the addict. Thank you so much for that connection and validation. Again, it's one of those things that this is why I also think it's a disorder of the brain, is because it doesn't really matter what substance is in front of you. Addicts tend to behave the same certain way and say the same certain things. And so I don't think it's like this separate thing that happens. I really do believe it's something that is in every single person, meaning as we all have a brain, and it's the same disorder that's happening in the same part of the brain. Hence why you're saying the same things.
Fight, flight. It's survival response.
Yes, because that, I will tell you,
it's ingrained in us.
When I started coaching and I was still in that early recovery from this last time, I will tell you when some people would relapse, I'd get triggered. And I would find it a hard time to speak up again. Reason being is because it was like the addict that I had in my life, that entity, that energy had just jumped in to another person and was smiling at me and basically saying, you'll never get rid of me. Because it was the same sayings, the same words, the same accusations, okay? So I just want you to know unfortunately, that does happen when we hold boundaries. You get an addict that's very upset with you, that is going to tell you that you're being controlling, that you're being manipulative, that it's your fault. And again, the one that we always hear is, I'm going to really get it this time, and I need you beside me. And it's like, I hear you. However, you've said this about 20 times previously, and it's never worked. And if I come in and I do this again with you, I'm not supporting you in a healthy way. I'm enabling you. So I will still support you, but I'm going to support you from a distance. And I'm going to say, hey, I can't be a part of this. I'm rooting you on. And if I see you making progress, I will slowly allow you back into this vicinity. But until then, if you keep seeing the same thing over and over, just like a codependent, if we keep co-signing bull crap, if we keep enabling, if we don't hold boundaries, we're doing the same exact thing as our addict. The same thing over and over and over again, and we're expecting a different result, and it never happens. So we stay in that victim mentality. Nothing ever changes. It's not until this is scary, this is hard, I need to hold a boundary. I don't have to hold the boundary alone. I need to reach out to my support system. I need to talk about this boundary. And just like you guys are saying, holy crap, like Anna and Mitchell, this is exactly, you get validated, and then you know, okay, I'm not a bad person. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing a healthy thing. So I just wanted to say that.
You know, it's crazy you said that, though. Like, what a great argument for how addiction is a disease or disorder, right?
Yeah.
What a great argument for it, because any other disease or disorder, you can look up in a medical journal and say, these are the symptoms.
Yes.
And with addiction, you can look up and say, what are the symptoms? And they are exactly the same with every addict and alcoholic.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right? So there you go, right there.
I mean, ready? Because unfortunately, here's some of the ones, right? Usually, and now again, if we have any addicts in recovery on here, anyone that listening, please remember, I'm not talking about you right now, true individual. I'm talking about the disease of addiction, okay?
Right,
so the symptoms of it. So the symptoms are someone in active addiction, a lot of selfishness. Okay, and again, there's reason because of that selfishness is because that frontal lobe's not really working well. They're dealing with their midbrain, that survival response, that 15 seconds, right?
Lying,
straight up, they see a stressor in their life. What's the quickest thing I can do to get rid of the stressor? So they go to fight, flight, play, dead, freeze. That's why you get lying. That's why you get the fighting and the yelling. They're going to that 15-second brain, okay? So you see the selfishness in there. Temper tantrums, usually yelling and screaming, defensiveness, gaslighting, sneaking around, lying. They're all, unfortunately, it's all the same. And again, just like Mitchell said, it's because it's the same symptom of a chronic illness.
Justifying.
Okay? So again, what we need to remember is
that's why we all get each other.
Yes. Yes, that is true. Like, that is true.
That's why we all go to meetings and have people, because we all get each other.
Yes. And so, guys, what we'll do is, we'll stop it right here because we're right about 9 o'clock, but Mitchell and I will continue to do these Monday night meetings again every Monday night, 8 to 9 p.m. We'll continue with questions. So if anyone has any other questions, you can either comment it right here, or I can create a whole new post on We Are Recovery to do that as well. Again, what was I going to say? I don't even remember. I'm going to be doing, I said it last week, but I've been still healing. But morning lives are going to start this week. I don't know what time. I'm just going to pop on. And if you'd like to listen, You can always watch the replay later, but that's what we will be doing. And then again, I just want to throw this out here. Any family members on here, always remember, we actually do have a private support group for family members. Okay, that is We Are Recovery. I created this, I think about what, Mitchell, like 8 months ago. But it's a private support group, just for family members. And I do feel it's different than other support groups. Reason being is because I do believe that the majority of people that are in the support group are people that follow We Are Recovery. And so they understand the concepts that we really try to get out of that victim mentality, learn how to hold boundaries.
Kind of in the same place.
Yeah, look at what we're working on, codependency. And it's very supportive. I've always seen very supportive comments on there. So if anyone wants to join that, it's actually called We Are Recovery Family. But again, it's only for family members, and it's private. Okay? We Are Recovery, this page is public. So we wanted to create a place that would maybe be safer for family members. All right, guys, we're going to head off of here. We love you guys, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.
Bye,
okay?
guys.
All right, bye.